Tonight, the manhunt for a former Olympic snowboarder turned alleged drug lord.
You do not get to be a drug kingpin and evade the law.
The two Albertans charged in the cross-border investigation. Plus, a pipeline from Alberta to BC's coast pushes closer to reality. Sources say a deal is just days away. And a costly contract.
They went through this whole exercise, spent the money, and they didn't achieve what they wanted to.
A report reveals testing out new lab services cost Alberta more than $100 million.
CTV Calgary, local breaking news with Terry Fikowski.
Good evening. North American police agencies are on the hunt for Ryan Wedding, a one-time Canadian Olympic snowboarder, now an American on America's FBI's most wanted list. He is described as dangerous, deadly, and responsible for a major narcotics trafficking and terror program. And two Alberta men have been arrested over their alleged connection to the drug empire, one who is well known to Calgary police. With more on this story, here's Tyson Fedor.
A bombshell in Washington Wednesday involving the RCMP, the FBI, and U.S. Department of Justice. Former Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding is on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list, and he is now being hunted down.
Ryan Wedding is a modern-day iteration of Pablo Escobar.
But on Tuesday, RCMP arrested 7 Canadians and continue to search for an 8th.
All of them are currently locked up, waiting the extradition process, so they'll have a fair process in front of a judge, and then our Department of Justice will communicate with the justice here.
Mounties tracked down a former junior hockey player and alleged Calgary drug kingpin, Alistair Chapman. The 33-year-old was arrested along with a 35-year-old man from Edmonton for their alleged connection to Wedding.
You do not get to be a drug kingpin and evade the law. This Justice Department and this FBI will work with our Canadian counterparts and the government officials across the world to bring him to justice.
Charges laid on Wednesday include drug trafficking, murder, and witness tampering, although it's unclear what Chapman is charged with. He had previously faced numerous charges here in Alberta in 2018, including conspiracy, trafficking, and possession of drugs. But they were all stayed due to long court delays.
I want to emphasize that our work is not done. Fugitive Ryan Wedding remains one of the top threats to Canadian public safety, and as per the previous indictment, continues to run an over $1 billion a year criminal enterprise.
Ryan Wedding is described by justice officials as extremely dangerous, violent, and wealthy. He has been linked to 4 murders in Ontario and goes by several aliases such as Giant and Public Enemy. The FBI believe he's being protected by the Sinaloa cartel and is living in Mexico.
Wedding is also accused of murdering a federal witness after he was indicted in 2024.
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
Chapman is accused of paying a Canadian gang news website $10,000 to not post about Wedding, but rather a witness who planned to testify against Wedding and was later killed. Anyone with information that leads to Wedding's arrest will receive a $15 million reward. In Calgary, a 4th youth has been arrested in connection to the death of Carter Spivak Villeneuve. A 16-year-old boy was arrested yesterday and has been charged with first-degree murder. Carter was found dead in the 300 block of Abergale Drive Northeast around 1 a.m. August 1st. Homicide detectives allege a group of teens involved in some sort of dispute with Carter arranged to meet him that night. Earlier this month, 3 15-year-olds were charged with first-degree murder. One person has died after being hit by a vehicle this morning. Pagan Trail was closed in both directions for several hours from 84th Street to 100th Street Southeast. The investigation continues, but police say the driver of the vehicle did remain on scene. There have now been 33 fatal collisions in our city in 2025, the most in the past 10 years. Meantime, a pedestrian was struck by a pickup truck around 10 this morning at the intersection of 51st Street and 35th Avenue. Emergency crews transported the woman in her 20s to hospital in non-life-threatening condition. Police continue to investigate. Patrons at a Southeast Calgary casino were surprised to see police make several arrests this afternoon. Officers arrived in several police cruisers at the Deerfoot Inn and Casino around 4 o'clock. Witnesses tell CTV News several people in the casino were taken into custody. Police confirmed they are in the middle of an investigation but did not provide details on what activities they are looking into. An Airdrie man is accused of filming women and a girl at two shopping malls in Calgary last summer. Police say the first involved a girl being recorded with a cell phone inside a fitting room at the Chinook Center location of Sport Check in June. In July, a woman noticed a man near a fitting room at Winners at Northland Mall and found a phone on the floor of the fitting room. Police say they reviewed security footage from Winners and found the suspect following and filming an 8-year-old girl. Last week, they searched a man's home, seized 7 cell phones, a hard drive, and other electronic devices.
From the victim's perspective, it's very unsettling. They're in a location where, they believe that, they have a right to privacy in that type of a setting. So, yeah, and when anybody's surreptitiously recording you, it makes them feel incredibly uneasy.
25-year-old Benjamin Ryan Turcotte faces 3 counts of voyeurism and will be back in court on December 8th. Turning now to the battle over a potential oil pipeline from Alberta to the BC North Coast intensifying tonight. Sources tell CTV that an agreement between Ottawa and Alberta is becoming closer to reality, but there are plenty of hurdles still. Rob Butham has the story.
CTV has learned talks between Ottawa and Alberta for a new pipeline to BC's coast are progressing, and an agreement is potentially mere days away. News the federal finance minister didn't dispute Wednesday.
I don't want to prejudge what may happen, but I would say that Canada is an energy superpower, doing that responsibly, sustainably.
A new pipeline to BC's coast would involve lifting the existing oil tanker ban. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith indicated last week an agreement was coming down the pipe.
We've made a lot of progress. We've been going back and forth on an MOU every day, I think, as we're getting the final wording, and I'm really hopeful that we'll have something more to say about that in a few days.
Pipeline politics has intensified over the past few months. BC Premier David Eby repeatedly rejecting the idea, which so far doesn't have a private proponent. Earlier this month, he joined coastal First Nations to amplify that message and sign a declaration upholding the tanker ban.
It's really difficult for me to shadow box with a non-existent project that has non-existent benefits because it will never be built and it's not going to happen.
A message hammered home by the Energy Minister Wednesday.
There's no proponent. There's no route. There's a tanker ban that BC strongly supports. The project does not make economic sense. There are alternative projects that make more sense for Canada and for Alberta.
Coastal First Nations say their approval is needed and not given. Other First Nations agree, but say they aren't surprised by an agreement, given Smith seemed unfazed when a pipeline wasn't part of earlier nation-building projects approved by Ottawa.
Little or no reaction from Alberta. And at that point in time, I knew that it would be forthcoming in a short period of time. So here we are.
The BC Conservatives support the pipeline and point to the NDP's opposition to the Trans Mountain project, which eventually got built, but after costly delays.
We have a government today that is insisting on blocking the movement of oil from Alberta through to the coast.
Whether that resistance prevents a new pipeline may be known in the coming days.
Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
A long-awaited demolition project is finally underway at the former Ogden Legion. The center used to be a popular gathering spot, but has been empty for more than a decade and was the site of a fire last month. In 2023, the city issued a demolition order. There was no indication yet from the owner what development may occur there. Demolition is also underway at another landmark. The building that once housed Julio Barrio on Memorial Drive in 10th Street Northwest is coming down to make way for a luxury condo development. The popular Mexican restaurant closed back in 2019. Another nice day out there today, Danielle, but I guess it comes with a reminder that there is still some signs of the season to watch out for.
Absolutely, because we had some snowfall and that melted off. There are some, puddles that freeze overnight. So in some isolated areas, it may be a little slippery, whether on some roads, some sidewalks. So just be careful. And watch out for that. Also, for tomorrow morning, when off to work at school at 8 a.m. with the wind chill, it will feel more like -8. Also, some fog patches likely in some areas for tomorrow morning as well that could reduce visibility. All right, in the afternoon, though, mainly sunny skies and a high of +5. Your full forecast is just ahead.
Thanks, Danielle. Alberta's move to privatize lab testings cost taxpayers more than $100 million. The long-awaited report into Alberta's failed privatization of lab services is next.
You're watching CTV News, Calgary.
Alberta's Auditor General says the province's privatization of community lab services left taxpayers on the hook for more than $100 million and also led to major delays for patients and lab work errors. Now, that's according to a new report outlining the collapse of the province's private contract with Dynalife. With more, here's Mark Villani.
Patients are piling into this Calgary medical lab, and to some surprise, their appointments were on time.
It's gotten better, in my opinion. It was supposed to be like a 20-minute, half-hour wait. I waited for like 4 minutes.
And it looks busy there, but it's quick.
But there was a time when it wasn't.
It was super slow. For a urine and blood test, I could be in there for 3 hours sometimes.
A new report from Alberta's Auditor General says those delays stem from the signing of a 15-year, $4.8 billion contract for Dynalife to take over lab services in the province.
They went through this whole exercise, spent the money, and they didn't achieve what they wanted to.
Dynalife was contracted out for lab services in Edmonton and Northern Alberta for years prior, but it took over for all of Alberta in December 2022. Just 2 weeks before that deal went into effect, the company went insolvent. 8 months later, the deal was terminated. That led to the province purchasing Dynalife, the centerpiece in taxpayer losses of $125 million over a 10-year period for government-initiated lab procurements.
Neither the department or Alberta Health Services followed their own procurement practices.
Wiley's report also notes that basic financial checks weren't done.
There was limited records of that were kept of important decisions that were made and discussions between Alberta Health Services Executive and the Department of Health.
Alberta's health minister clapped back, saying her department took immediate action. That's why in June 2023, we directed that the agreement with Dynalife be terminated and shifted services to Alberta Precision Labs, which has resulted in significant improvements to wait times across the province.
These folks are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And these aren't nurses and surgeons and doctors. These are managers. Why didn't they manage this better?
Danielle Smith and the UCP wanted to move forward full speed ahead on privatization. They didn't do their research. They didn't have good records at the meetings that they had, and the buck stops with them.
Wiley now recommends better procurement practices and clear record keeping.
And ensuring that the money is being spent wisely.
Mark Villani, CTV News, Calgary.
AHS has not yet commented, but the province says it fully cooperated with the investigation and any suggestion to the contrary would be incorrect. Thousands of healthcare workers could be on the picket line come Saturday. The Alberta Union of Provincial Employees serving strike notice after negotiations fell through with the province. Union members, which covers licensed practical nurses and healthcare aides, voted 98% in favor of strike action earlier this month. They say while talks have not gone as they hoped, they are still open to negotiating.
We remain ready to return to the table. We remain committed to reaching a fair agreement. But make no mistake, our members will not back down from what is right, what is just, and what is necessary.
Major sticking points have been compensation for licensed practical nurses and a reduction of annual hours. If nothing is resolved, workers would walk off the job at 8:30 a.m. Saturday. The province offering more details into its plan to let Alberta doctors work in both the public and private health systems simultaneously. The Premier gave specifics of the dual practice surgery model in video on social media. Surgeons will soon be allowed to offer elective procedures paid for by patients or their insurance after they commit to a minimum number of publicly funded surgeries per year. The province says it's about cutting wait times and will eventually be brought in so more than surgeons have the flexibility. Some health providers, though, are furious.
What's really, really critical here is it's not just doctors. So, I mean, obviously surgeons are one, but it's the anesthesiologists, which we already don't have enough of, would have to go over to that stream, but also nurses and the post-op, preoperative care. It takes an entire team to do this work, and it will create a grossly inequitable healthcare situation, and we're all very, very worried about it.
The bill is set to be introduced this session. A Medicine Hat radio host says a growth on his brain is stealing his voice, and he can't get neurosurgery appointments for a month. Kim Johnson spent 30 years on air until a collapse in his speech made it impossible to keep working. An MRI found a cyst pressing on a nerve that controls his jaw and voice. He says his condition is worsening every week, but his first neurosurgical assessment isn't until late January. Now he's turned to social media, hoping public pressure will speed up his care.
It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. The longer this condition is allowed to go unchecked, the greater risk of permanent damage. And I feel that it is very possible that that damage may be well underway.
CTV reached out to Alberta Health and Alberta Urgent Care for comment, but so far have not received a response. The Alberta Teachers Association says it's standing with parents and students now that the province is using the notwithstanding clause for a second time in a matter of weeks.
The government needs to know that when they use things like the notwithstanding clause, it demoralizes people. It makes them second-class citizens in their province. And that is something that I'm not sure if government actually thinks about the emotional or the psychological impact that the use of these bills have on people.
In October, teachers were forced to end their strike and go back to work. Now the province is using the notwithstanding clause again to override rights and bring in legislation that affects transgender kids. The ATA says schools should be a safe space for all students, and by targeting transgender kids, the province is undermining their safety. An Alberta rancher and musician filed a new application for a Citizens Initiative petition today. Corb Lund says he's been fighting for 5 years to stop coal mining on the eastern slopes of the Rockies.
I'm not partisan. I don't have any affiliation or affection for any of the parties. This has nothing to do with anything at all political except for not ruining the water in the mountains for all Albertans. And I also have been clear about saying I'm not anti-resource. I understand we need resources, but it doesn't mean that every project is a good idea. And these coal mines in the headwaters of rivers are a terrible idea.
The Grassy Mountain Coal Exploration Project was initially rejected in 2021 over environmental concerns. But Alberta's energy regulator approved the exploration near the Crow's Nest Pass earlier this year. Lund's petition still has to be approved by Elections Alberta. Well, another calm night in Calgary. I guess I shouldn't say calm last night, or I shouldn't say again. Last night we saw some snow, but overall it has been quite calm, and that's expected to stick around. But Danielle says change is on the way. Her full forecast is coming up.
All right, to sum up the longer-term forecast, mild for the rest of this week, certainly not mild next week. We will not get above freezing for our daytime highs most days next week. We'll talk more about that in just a second. We got up to 6 in the city today. Vancouver was one of the hot spots in the double digits today. And Halifax and St. John's got fairly toasty as well at 7 degrees. I mean, for this time of year, toasty enough. All right, radar and satellite. This is the system that we've dealt with that brought us the snow yesterday. That's now out of the way. So we're in between systems. This next one that's rolling into BC right now, the mountains will keep a lot of that moisture off on the BC side for the next couple of days. We'll get some cloud cover creep in at times, but we'll also have some sunny breaks, and we'll get a little bit of wind from this. So south of Calgary, it should be a little windy tomorrow. In Calgary, it should be less windy, but also less warm. For example, Lethbridge will get to at least 10 degrees for tomorrow, and we'll still be in the single digits in Calgary because we're not going to get that full force of the Chinook winds for the day, but we will have those winds out of the west. All right, I'm going to advance this, but I'm only going to stop it in one spot. That's because there's not a whole lot of active weather to talk about. These systems will be tracking through central Alberta, but the mountains are going to protect us in the south. Again, we'll just get some cloud cover here and there. But if you are looking to head north on the QE2 Friday morning, keep in mind Red Deer and north around that 7:30 a.m. time. There is the potential for some freezing rain, so maybe a little slick in some spots north of Red Deer. All right, outside of that, it's fairly quiet. On the weekend, we'll start to see some snow build into the higher elevations around the Banff area. But for the most part, again, this stays off into BC until Sunday night. then that's a different story. So when we look at longer range forecasts, 5 degrees for tomorrow. This is a similar daytime high to what we had today. Likely some fog patches building in for the morning here and there. And with the wind chill, it will feel more like -8 when off to work and school. 9 degrees for Friday, 6 for Saturday. A warm front will push in, so that's the beginning of this system on Sunday. That will get us up to at least 7 degrees. But then the cold front starts to swipe through Sunday night. That will bring in some snowfall that will last into Monday. At this point, it looks like about 1 to 3 centimeters possible, and we'll only get to a daytime high of 1 on Monday. After that, our daytime highs, as you can see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even Saturday of next week will be below the freezing mark.
All right, we've been warned. Thanks, Danielle. Comedian Dave Chappelle is coming to Calgary next month. He will perform at the Saddle Dome on December 2nd. The Emmy and Grammy Award winner will also perform in Edmonton and Vancouver. Tickets are now on sale. And you know that'll be a good, funny show. Still ahead, a small amount of women make up the skilled trades workforce in Canada, but an event at State is pushing to change that, giving girls the chance to try out a trade today.
They've dialed it in here, and Coronado chopping wildly at it, and that goes in.
It's back to beat Buffalo tonight after last night's loss. The Flames with their 6th goal in the last 2 minutes of the third period. Now, there was some back and forth earlier on with the Sabres tying things up in the second, but then Calgary followed it up with 4 more goals. That ended up being 6-2 for the Flames. Up next, they play host to the Dallas Stars this Saturday at the Dome. About 120 young students from the Calgary area traded pencils for tools today at an event aimed at giving girls a chance to explore careers in the trades. As Alicia Fieldberg reports, they are a vastly untapped workforce for many in-demand jobs.
Using saws and paint guns, these junior high girls are getting a feel for jobs in the trades.
Just a bunch of these fun skills and seeing if I want to do something like this when I'm older. I really like the smell of wood. My dad's a carpenter, and I just think it's really interesting.
These are just some of the industries they're sampling at an event created to expose options and reduce stigma.
Just because they're girls doesn't mean that they can't do a trade.
Only about 7% of skilled trades workers are women, according to Statistics Canada. Giving girls a chance to try them at a young age could change that, which could also help fill employment gaps.
The numbers coming out around youth unemployment right now even are not terrific, and same thing we're hearing, there's not enough skilled people coming into the trades. And so we hope by sparking that interest early for some of these girls, they get a head start potentially on deciding what they might want to do.
Students can even sign up to take apprenticeship courses at SAIT while they're still in high school.
Part of high school dual credit program. So once they get to high school, they actually can come to SAIT and participate in the entire first period in a number of skilled trades.
More females are enrolling in trades here, but they still only make up about 6% of SAIT's apprentice students.
So when I first started, there wasn't that much. It was like 1, maybe 2 for a while, and then now it's kind of going up a lot more.
Female mentors, hands-on experience, and trailblazing opportunities may open the door for others.
Maybe. I really like working with my hands rather than just sitting in a desk. I think it's empowering.
Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Calgary.
SAIT also offers a free online course for all Alberta junior high students to explore skilled trades. And nice to see a lot of them getting inspired down there today. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll be back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching.